Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video, I am discussing how the drug war needs to be ended, how it can be ended, and how we need to take lessons from when alcohol, or the war on alcohol prohibition was ended, and how to try to mitigate the ending of the drug war so the same problems don't happen again. Because what happened after they decriminalized alcohol? All the gangs that were built by the illegality of alcohol basically got put out of work all at the same time. And all they knew was doing stuff, dealing with alcohol was criminal activity. So that's all they knew was criminal activity. So they went into other criminal activities like kidnapping and robberies and extortion, all these things for decades, okay? Then it took like 50 years for the gangs that were built by alcohol prohibition to finally get to a point where they weren't juggernauts, okay? Well, today we're in a much worse situation because the drug war has been going on for over 50 years. It was initially started to go after blacks and liberals. You can look at the drug war as Jim Crow 2.0, worldwide edition. Okay? So it wasn't long after civil rights was passed in the United States that the anti-civil rights people then started the war on drugs to go after liberals and blacks. Which the poor black people, or just black people in general, poor like unfortunate, how about that? The unfortunate black people in the United States who were victims of slavery and then they were supposed to have been freed, but they didn't get it because of Andrew Jackson kind of killed the deal. And so then they went in, they being the black folks in the South, went into another 100 years of Jim Crow, okay? And then they weren't out of Jim Crow, but like a couple years, and really it hadn't completely ended by the time the war on drugs was started, okay? It specifically was started to target blacks and liberals, okay? We've known that specifically, and we can prove this since 2014, when one of Nixon's assistants came out and admitted to as much, okay? So, there is no ambiguity that the drug war is some kind of benefit or no. It's where most of the world's fascist ideology resides. This notion like the government with guns can just fix everything. We can just outlaw whatever we want and our guys with the guns can just do whatever. Which is absolute madness and ridiculousness. And it can be argued that they really probably never even cared a little bit about the drugs. What the actual reality is Nixon was terrified of the protesters. And he had no mechanism to protect himself beyond just a little bit of National Guard and such, okay? Like today, I mean, this is a full-blown police state. The United States is a full-blown police state with the largest incarcerated population in the world, the most people, because the United States has redefined criminal to just mean anything they desire. And they just keep adding to this list. The drug war was on its final legs back in like 1999, 2000, there was the governor of New Mexico was coming out and saying, we got to deal with this. There was tons of like end the drug war efforts and news and stuff Okay, it was starting to wrap up then. And so then the same crew that started the drug war, Nixon being directly connected to Bush, Reagan, Prescott Bush, all like this, okay? So the war on terror, and that's a whole nother video, okay? But that all spawned, the timing was perfect, because then they took the failing drug war that was lost support by everybody, because it was, at that point, we didn't even have the evidence. I mean, people knew that it was started to go after liberals and blacks, but there was no like hard evidence like there was since 2014, okay? But then they immediately just tied the whole war on drugs right to the war on terror, you know, and just reinvigorated the entire thing, quadrupled down, sextupled down on the propaganda, okay? Like their public health or public safety, which is just ridiculous, okay? The gangs are completely financed, okay? This entire Central American region has gangs that are just wild because of the illegality of the United States' drug war, okay? So the drug war, the laws are thousands of times worse than the drugs could have ever been, okay? So what do we do about all this? How is this going to end? Well, it's going to have to start with a coalition of countries that have just been shit on for decades. They should come together, and like the president of Colombia, I think, is already on board. But, and it would probably come out of the Central American region, which has seen the most devastation from the drug war. And right before they were being devastated by the drug war, they were being devastated by the war on communism. Okay? So the region needs some relief from being devastated. So the region, Central and South America, Northern South America, mainly Central America, coming together, banding together, going to the United Nations and saying, look, this is a lie. They sold us a lie. They're going after liberals and blacks. This has nothing to do with public health. We're being inundated with gangs. We can't afford all this, and there's much better ways to deal with all this medically. Okay? So now you have a coalition of countries screaming at the top of their lungs to fix this problem, to end the drug war, end it, and it's completely ended. No more, right? So now, phase one is the countries come together and start the movement, and it starts to crumble. There's medical marijuana all over the place. Marijuana was so integral to the whole war on drugs, like, oh, marijuana is the cause of everything. Like, they literally said, if you buy a joint, you're supporting the Taliban. During the Grand Football Bowl in the United States, right around 2002 or something like that, when the war on terror, all this, if you buy a joint, you're supporting terror. Are you kidding me right now? They put Chong in jail for bongs. That's how fascist and wacky these people are. These people are the Bush regime that Trump's connected right to through Roger Stone and a bunch of other kooks. Okay, it's all the same band of kooks. Going all the way back. Nixon, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, kooks, all connected to the same Prescott Bush that are just trying to turn this world into a fascist shithole, okay? So people who don't want to live in an authoritarian fascist shithole, like Central and South America, they all went through this in the 70s with their fascist coups. They're all completely on the page which direction they want to go. And it's never back to fascism, okay? And the fascist ideology at its core, the life's blood of modern fascism lives in the drug war. This is where they have all their people that believe in this fascist ideology, which the drug war is fascist ideology. They all make a ton of money. Every one of these CIA, FBI, ICE, every single one of those people, hundreds of thousands of people, all making $100,000 a year plus. Every single one of these people, their fascist ideology supported by the taxpayers of the United States through the drug war. The drug war is how the fascists have a huge pile of money. The CIA was bringing the cocaine in back in the 80s. This isn't not any new news. Okay, what do you think they did that? That money is the same money that has been trying to unravel America for decades. Pretty much did it. Democracy's over. Watch this video right here. So now, I think I've explained sufficiently the reasons why we need to end the drug war, how the drug war could be ended with the coalition of South America, Central America, East Asia, countries from around the world saying, you know what, this is stupid, and we know you started it to go after racist agenda, racist political agenda, fascist racist political agenda, and a group of countries around the world comes together and the sanity starts to take over. Okay, so now what does a world without a drug war look like? It's quite simple. People need to understand there's a huge difference between drug addiction and partying. Going out and partying once in a while. Totally different things. And that the whole illegality of the drugs creates more addiction because there is no people in the normal space that can go, you're doing too much, bro, because they're all in this little bubble trying to not get busted. Okay? Well, you break that bubble open when the drugs are in the pharmacies to a certain extent. So you have certain things like marijuana dispensaries, okay? And then other things and bringing things like opium. Like if a lot of people, they're just living their lives. They hurt themselves. They don't even go to a freaking doctor and sit in a doctor's office and be like, they could just take a couple hits of opium, be like, well, it's not broken, it's not damaged. I just hurt myself. I just don't want to be in pain. And they just, couple little hits of opium, rarely when they hurt themselves. This would be the type of thing that people would do, right? This whole fentanyl shooting on the streets and all this is all gonna go away, okay? The drug addiction is gonna dry up because there's no one pushing the drugs to make profit. There's no one doing that because the drugs don't have a profit anymore because they're just legal and in the pharmacy, in the dispensary, end of story, okay? So that's how the actual drugs, now your overdoses are pretty much gone, your poisonings are pretty much gone, your who knows what is in this drug is gone, people going to get this, ending up with that, and then being on a whole different level and sick, and all these things happen because the drugs are illegal, okay? So, the drugs are in the pharmacies. Now, what do you do with these massive gangs and trying to prevent what we talked about in the start of the video, which was the gangs that have been used to making huge amounts of money illegally, and they have to behave in a lot of cases in certain ways. I mean, I was a marijuana smuggler. I was a marijuana grower. I was a marijuana everythinger. I wasn't a person who would do anything other than normal business type activities in regards to the marijuana. It was just a normal business. I was just a normal business person that was dealing in a business. Now, some things happened. I had some guys come out of a trunk to steal some money, and I would have literally killed 2 people right then. But the gun that I had, because they pulled their gun out, and it was like, okay, I got a gun too. And my gun's bullet was a dud. Or those guys would have been dead. And I would have been a killer just because I was protecting myself, okay? So overall, I'm here to tell the story. So I lucked out, I guess. But the point being is there's people who deal with drugs who are just business people. You don't have to worry about them on any other level because they're just gonna go into other business. They're not trying to do the killing, the robbing, the extorting, the kidnapping, and all this other crazy stuff. They're just doing business. So we need to break the people, the gang members, into 3 categories that we can deal with. Okay, category 1 would be business people. Don't have to deal with them at all. All they ever did was business. They just bought and sold commodities. That's it. They never did anything else. You don't have anything to worry about them. 0 issue. Then there's those people, but then somebody, like in my case, tried to rob them, but maybe their bullet wasn't a dud, right? So they actually have killed people. But they never set out to kill people. They killed somebody in the defense of this, okay? Again, I would say that's probably in that situation where you just defended yourself. You're a business person. You never, dealing with commodities. And somebody tried to rob you and they ended up dead. And that was it. Then, again, don't have to worry about that person. That person's not a threat to society, okay? And right there between those 2 types of people, that's the vast majority of these gang members worldwide, okay? So now the 3rd person level is just the sadistic killer, right? The people that just went, went down the road of being real scary. And I got a whole video about that, what to do with the worst of the worst. Basically, kind of banishing, dropping them off on an island somewhere. Pick an island in the middle of somewhere, and the world's the worst of the worlds. Just put them there. Stop having these big prisons and all this stuff. Just drop them on an island somewhere and let them work it out for themselves. It'll be a lot better for humanity in general, in my opinion. The prisons are breeding inhumanity of the people who work there. And that's bad. Nearly as bad as the level of the inhumanity with the people that are residing in there. So, now, you don't have to worry about these types of people. You don't have to worry about these, and these you need to banish. For those that don't need banishing, they need a Marshall Plan to prevent them from turning into somebody who just wants to make the rest of their life a criminal life, a criminal pursuit, okay? To prevent that, you gotta have an outreach with massive education offerings, right? So it's like, green technologies. Do you want to learn how to install solar, how to build batteries, how to, install hot water, solar, just green technology and, on the big scale, build these big, giant complex like they do for prisons, but build it for education. You're not spending the money on the prison anymore. Spend it on education. Give people education that they can use in their communities to make their communities better. Nobody ever did that with the alcohol prohibition. They basically just were like, it's legal, and then those guys went off on a tangent and created havoc for decades to follow. Okay, so if we want to mitigate that, because we need to end the drug war right now, yesterday, it needs to be done. It's one of the worst things that ever happened on earth, okay? Because regulation is far superior. Saying, okay, people are going to do this, let's live in reality. How do we do that and make them not do all these things? And then holding people personally responsible for their behavior. Because this is one of the biggest propaganda parts of the drug war, is they constantly have people blame the drugs in their court proceedings to prove it was the drugs, okay? But this is just propaganda. It's just lies. It's the drugs' illegality and the environment that it created that has caused the vast number of the most ugliest problems, okay? So it's propaganda. Don't even try to say any other way. The entirety of the drug war has been propaganda, 100% a lie that is continued today by around the world. Around the world. The United States exported this racist targeting of specific ideologies to everybody around the world. It was designed to go after liberals and blacks. Around the world it spread, okay? So if you want a peaceful, happy world and you don't want to worry about gangs and all the right? Well, guess what? We are not going to see the change for at least, if it was tomorrow, it would take 10 years before it would start to calm down. Even if every single thing that I say here is done to the letter, it's still not a light switch. We've got 50 plus years to unravel all these people, hundreds of thousands of fascists working in this lie propaganda industry. They all have a lot of money, tiny little intellects, and a fascist ideology that's detrimental to the entirety, safe and prosperity and peace of the world, okay? Their notion like, oh, we need to go after this. I mean, it's been a lie from the start. To make money for the same crew that is now trying to unravel the rest of the world. Okay, the CIA, the ones that started this, then brought in all the drugs. They brought in the heroin, they brought in the cocaine. They did. They started all this craziness, made a ton of money off it originally, and now have spent the last 50 years posturing to end worldwide democracy, quite frankly. So the drug war has to be ended by people who don't like fascism. That's the connection everybody needs to understand. The drug war is the fascist stronghold. It's when you get $100,000 a year to think this hosehead level stuff, and there's hundreds of thousands of people like that, that's a huge problem. All those people are making just truckloads of money off lies and propaganda. And everyone knows it. But no one says a thing about it. Because, drug addiction is so bad. And I'm not arguing that point. But there's a huge difference between people who want to party every once in a while, which is like 95% of everybody that ever does any drugs, versus the 5% that are going to be too much. We can have a freaking multi-trillion-dollar juggernaut of prisons and dudes with guns and riot gear, and I mean, it's way overblown. Peace.
Thank you for watching.